Good morning and good afternoon or good evening, depending where in the world you are joining us from today. My name is Andrea Zelenko, and I am currently serving as an Interim Associate Vice Chancellor for the Division of Student Affairs, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's Buff Family webinar. We have a host of panelists, and our new student and family programs staff are going to host today. So with that, I'm going to turn today's webinar over to Bree Waterman. She'll introduce our panelists and get us started for some overviews and updates. Bree?
Thank you so much, Andrea. Welcome, Buff families. If you've joined any of our webinar series before, you most likely recognize my voice. I am a program coordinator in new student and family programs, and we're so happy that you joined us for our December webinar. We do host a webinar series each month as well as a coffee hour, and we hope that you'll continue to join us throughout the next semester. I always start every webinar with new student and family programs contact information so that if at the end of this webinar you have any lingering questions or concerns, you know how to get a hold of us. So you can call or text our office, email us at families@colorado.edu, or if you go to our website, you can live chat with one of our students and staff. So with that, feel free to take a picture of this slide, screenshot, so that you know how to get a hold of us at the end of this webinar. I am very excited to have 3 directors with us this morning to be talking about some spring updates for housing and dining and spring programming. We're going to first hear from Paul, our Director of Dining. Then we'll hear from Crystal, our Director of Residence Life. And then we will hear from Amber, our Director in New Student and Family Programs. And with that, I am going to turn it over. You can see our agenda that I just went over, and I'll turn it over to Paul now to kick us off.
Thanks, Bree. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time today to join us. This fall semester has been one of adaptation and continual learning for everyone, and this is true for campus dining services as well. We entered the fall semester with a plan based on knowns and several alternative plans based on unknowns. We didn't get everything right, but our commitment to serving our students the best food possible in the safest space possible never wavered. We knew we would have to adjust our operations consistently, and our current environment was like none we had ever seen before. As a chef by training and having been in the hospitality industry for more than 20 years, providing a quality, positive guest experience is at my very core. We have received feedback from students and parents throughout the semester and have used that to enhance the overall experience during the fall semester and will continue to do so. One area we have received a lot of feedback is healthier options. Healthier can mean different things to different people. In campus dining services, we are proud to partner with over 60 other fellow universities across the country in demonstrating our definition of healthy using the guiding principles of the Menus of Change initiative. By following the Menus of Change principles, we pride ourselves in offering whole, minimally processed foods. We offer a variety of produce, whole grains, legumes, and nuts. Much of our produce is sourced and bought locally and is seasonally available. Fresh fruits and vegetables are available at every station. We are increasing our offerings of fresh fruits and vegetables in all of our order ahead locations and dining halls in the spring semester. We encompass plant-forward, high-protein, globally inspired culinary strategies. We choose to make 90% of our food items from scratch in order to control the ingredients and the quality. We choose to use healthier oils in all of our cooking processes. And our culinary staff utilizes a guiding list of unclean ingredients that we do not serve. And some of those are high fructose corn syrup, datum, no artificial preservatives or colors. Beginning in the spring semester, we have incorporated the Smart Pick icon into the Nutrislice app. While viewing the online menus, students will be able to set a filter to highlight foods that are designated as Smart Picks. following those guidelines for the day that they choose to order to help better guide their choices. We have also been tirelessly working on organizing and categorizing the online Nutrislice menus in order to highlight healthy options. This will also be another tool that students may use in order to guide their meal selections. Since the beginning of the fall semester, we have been more strategic in placing healthier options front and center, where students will be able to see them and not hidden away. If your student continues to have difficulty finding options that suit them, we highly encourage your student to contact Lisa Whalen, our registered dietitian, or Chef Aaliyah Golden, our Associate Director of Campus Dining. Like I said, Lisa is our on-staff registered dietitian, and she is available to help guide your students in healthy eating and food allergies, either virtually or in person, to give tours of the dining hall. Often after students meet with our registered dietitian, students find that they didn't realize that we had the offerings they were looking for. In turn, these students feel more successful in finding foods that meet their dietary needs and wants. Our Lisa can also help students connect with any management in the dining halls in order to provide further assistance. Even though we strive to offer healthy dining options, we do continue to offer some comfort food items in order to appeal to all students. We get many different types of food requests, and comfort food is still one of them. Another area we have received feedback in has been food allergies and food preferences. We are diligent in labeling all of our food with the top 8 FDA allergens, plus gluten, alcohol, and pork. A positive from all things COVID has been the reduction of potential cross-contamination of allergens due to all foods being served by our staff. We currently and will continue to offer a multitude of gluten-free options. We use tamari in place of soy sauce, xanthan gum and cornstarch in place of flour as a thickener. We always have gluten-free red lentil pasta, cauliflower pizza crust, gluten-free bagels, and breads. Beginning the spring semester, our alternative flour pancakes will be available daily at the Center for Community and Village Center. Our bakery is also increasing the amount of alternative flour desserts they make. All sandwiches can be made with gluten-free bread. We continue to work with Nutrislice to enhance the allergen and dietary preference filters with our online menus. We have been working on making the Nutrislice app showcase everything that our dining halls and grab-and-goes and order ahead locations have, so that students can view their options before going to the dining halls. Please encourage your students to ask questions in the dining halls if they are looking for a specific item but can't find it. We'll gladly assist. As for vegetarian and vegan options, one of our core principles is to have rich vegetarian and vegan options offered at every station every day. We are currently adding even more options that will be available in the grab-and-goes and order aheads in dining halls this coming semester. Within the dining centers, we are increasing each rotating daily special. This also means there will be double vegetarian and vegan options available as well. We have also increased our menu cycles and offerings in all locations to provide more variety and selection this upcoming spring semester. Some things are out of our control due to state, local, and national guidelines. We will continue to follow all guidelines to ensure the safest possible dining experience. Some of the steps we've taken have been unidirectional lines, all foods served by our staff, incompostable to-go containers to limit cross-contact, like I mentioned, and also scheduling our staff in cohorts to limit the potential of having to close stations or dining centers. The experience of dining with others is something that we all share and have memories of. Although we were not able to provide this experience in the fall, we will be offering 2 dining locations starting in the spring. Students will be able to make reservations and be able to enjoy a meal with friends indoors. This option, of course, depends on what level we are on the dial. Anything other than red, we will have that option available to students. Also for the spring, we have been able to expand our hours at Sewell Dining to include weekend service to better serve those students living on that side of campus. On behalf of myself and all of Campus Dining Services, thank you for your time, and we look forward to serving your students when they return to campus in the spring. Take care.
Thank you very much, Paul. We really appreciate it. And this time I will turn it over to Crystal.
Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Lay. I'm the Director of Residence Life here at CU Boulder. As we reflected upon the fall semester in preparation for the spring, I had to think about my own experience as a mom of 3 kiddos and their hopes and dreams for the fall semester. I watched them experience grief and sadness and lots of tears. And I know from the feedback and listening to your students that they felt similarly. And so that is my lens as we think about what we want to provide moving into our spring semester. So we thought about, with the information that we have, how do we go about building community, connection, and hope for the students that live with us? How do we help them feel a sense of belonging in a really messy time where the whole world seems to feel disconnected? And so as we move into the spring, it is our hope that your student is able to engage with at least one other person and feel a different and better connection to CU Boulder. And so I'm very gracious, to have you all on the call today. So let's talk about what we know. I want to start with the move-in pieces. So we have our process for our new and returning residence hall students. They can begin scheduling their move-in appointments on January 15th. And then residents will be able to select appointments between February 7th and 18th to actually move into campus. That will include our testing process. And when we get into our Q&A, we'll give you a little bit more information about that. Then we have our Bear Creek residents. If they live with us in the fall, they can begin scheduling their move-in appointments today. So they are returning to Bear Creek. They can start scheduling today, and they can come back to campus in, on, or after January 4th. Any students who are new to Bear Creek can actually select dates that begin the move-in process on January 10th. So the way we do our appointments, they are scheduled in a way where we can ensure or encourage safety and really have a process where folks feel comfortable and they can get acclimated to campus in a way that's orderly and abides by our guidelines. The next piece that I want to shift to that has come up is programming. We, got feedback that students were saying, hey, I don't know my RA. That was disheartening to me. And so we thought about, well, how do we make sure that each of our students have a touch point with their RA? How do we ensure that they meet their hall director, the staff that live in the building to support them? And so what we are going to be doing is do different and better publicizing of the events that we're going to offer. We also are going to title our emails differently to say, hey, let's get connected. That can be in the subject line. So when your student looks at their email or any of the publicity, they can understand, okay, this is an opportunity for me to connect and meet some folks who live within my building. Some of the things we offered last semester and we want to do again, weekly trivia nights, hiking meetups, movie nights. We had a mystery scavenger hunt, and at the community center, which is also known as the front desk, students can go and check out board games, sporting equipment, and they can connect with anyone in their building to sit down and get to know each other over a really fun and exciting game. So we're hoping to continue that. We also hope to offer in-person programs as well. And as Paul said, depending on the dial, we are hoping again to offer that because we know that's important. We also are training our student staff, our RAs, on how to offer more engaging and exciting virtual programs. So that way the students have more opportunities, again, to build that connection. The other piece that I want to share on this next slide is our resources that are available to our students when they live on campus. We have very talented and committed live-in staff and faculty who live with your students. They live with your kiddos. And so we have our RAs who do buff chats. And so these are one-to-one check-ins to say, how are you doing? Are you resourced? How can I support you? And then that RA is able to connect your person, your loved one, to someone on campus that can help them navigate their experience here. So those are offered throughout the semester. We also have a free tutoring program for our students who live on campus, and that's pretty exciting. And so your students are able to go online and get free tutoring to support them academically. We also have great resources on campus. And so if your student is feeling disconnected, isolated, having any mental health concerns, we are able to connect them to those different resources that are available. They also can participate in leadership development opportunities and also diversity and inclusion developmental opportunities. And so we really are trying to be different and better about what we offer and the frequency. Your student will be able to engage in those events 2 times a week for the entirety of the semester. And the event days do vary by the residence hall. And so for the exact date and time of all those events, they want to go ahead and connect with their RA or their hall director. So very excited to offer those different opportunities. And we are planning on offering an actual session on how to make friends, how to make a connection, because I know as an adult, it's still hard to make friends. And so I think as we think about COVID, we also want to say, how do you make friends one-on-one? So we're excited to offer that piece as well. So thank you. And looking forward to doing better and creating a sense of connection for your student when they come back.
Thank you so much, Crystal. We really appreciate it. And at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Amber, the Director of New Student and Family Programs.
Thank you, Bree. Hello, everyone. Welcome and thanks for attending today's webinar. My name is Amber Cardamone, and I serve as the Director for New Student and Family Programs. And I know that as many of you have heard from both of my amazing colleagues, Paul and Crystal, we've learned a lot this past semester, and we're continuing to improve our processes and how we move forward to support the student experience. I just want to remind you that our office is here to support your students as well as you through your entire CU transition experience. So please don't ever hesitate to contact us at any time to help you to get any questions you might have. We can certainly help direct you to the correct office. We realize and acknowledge how difficult it is to navigate a university of our size, and that you may not always know where to go or who to talk to get your questions answered, but just knowing that we're here as a resource. So today I want to speak with you a little bit further about our new student welcome experience. So for those of you who have new buffs joining us in the spring, we're really excited for you and for them to come back and be here on our campus. And then for those of you who are joining us as a returning buff, we're excited to keep you engaged with us and share some of the information we have about some changes we'll be making. So first, just to kind of walk through our new student welcome experience, which I think is also important for our returning buffs to realize they still have access to a lot of this information. So your student as a new buff should be getting communications in their CU email. So making sure that they're still connecting with us in that platform and that they're making sure that they're reading through that email extensively to make sure that they're connected in different ways. We have a buff to buff program with current student leaders on our campus who are there to make that connection and help them feel engaged and to understand and navigate the entire CU experience. So definitely make sure that they're checking out that program. There's a lot of answers and insight from current students about their experience that they're sharing, and even their experiences this past fall with us, and recommendations and insights on how they know that they can work to be more successful on our campus. And again, we're utilizing those conversations and a lot of data to drive some of the decisions that we're making moving forward. So if your student hasn't already, making sure that they're doing all those holds and to-dos in their buff portal. But our online experience is our virtual orientation that they have access to or would have had access to in the fall, but it still lives in their buff portal, and they can go back at any time and peruse the information in there around campus resources, how to connect with their academic advisor, and making sure that they're getting registered for their courses. So again, just making sure that that is something that they're aware of. All of our new students are welcome to join us for our new student orientation, which will take place completely virtually January 11th through the 13th. And so I just have a quick link here for you all to check out if you want to go ahead and see the full details. I think it's really important for our parents and families to know that they can help their student through this experience. And so you can actually see some of these next steps on what they need to do to make sure that they're learning about all of the transition experience that we offer here at CU and explicitly our Spring Welcome program. And so you can see Spring Welcome will take place part of that new student orientation process, but through through the entire month of January, we'll be hosting events and programs virtually until we're able to hopefully resume to in-person opportunities come February. So thinking about things like our involvement fair, we're going to have extensive meetups. We call them our buff meetups. We know that students who participated in these in the spring, in the fall, have actually made a lot of connections. And so we highly encourage your student to do that. We know that virtual events are not always the number one thing that students want to engage with, but we also know that there's a lot of value in making connection through those programs. So we are encouraging you to share some of this information with them as well. And if there's students on the call, make sure that you're checking out our spring welcome programs. They're open to all students, all of our students on campus, as a welcome to and a welcome back to CU Boulder. We'll be doing things like craft nights, grab and go, trivia. Some of the things that we continue to talk about is bringing students into the conversation on what they're looking for. And so a lot of your students did complete our new student welcome survey, and we're utilizing that data to drive some of the decisions moving forward. So we just want to remind you to, again, share that information with them about spring welcome. Some of the next things that we're going to talk about is just ongoing spring programming. So we do want to let you know, obviously, as some of my colleagues shared, we keep talking about this thing called our state's COVID-19 dial. So I think it's really important for you to know that we're trying and working in accordance with CDC, City of Boulder, and that dial to make clear campus guidelines that would offer the ability to host in-person programs. Until we're able to do that, again, we're following this dial, and we want to make sure that students are safe and our campus and our community are safe. So until we're able to do that, we'll definitely be hosting a majority of our events will be online. And so we want to make sure that you are staying informed as well. We have our university events calendar. This is going to be a series of events and activities that are happening all over campus. And so that's a great place for you and your students to stay connected. In addition to that, the Division of Student Affairs that focuses all on student life and the student experience also hosts a series of has a series of events listed on our fall events website, as well as we'll be replicating a copy of this website for the spring. So you can stay tuned to some of those updates that will be coming here in the very near future. But I think it's great, for you to know that there's still events taking place right now for your student to engage with us. And they'll also be able to do that come the spring. Another component that we really want to talk about, we know we get a lot of questions about student org operation and activity, is another platform called Buff Connect. And Buff Connect runs through our Center for Student Involvement. And Buff Connect is going to be a platform where they can actually go ahead and connect with the current student organizations that are on campus and really connect with other students who are participating in different opportunities, whether those are student organizations, intramural sports, things like that that are taking place that might be really important and interesting for them. The last thing I just really want to share about spring programming is obviously that it continues to evolve, right? Everything in this COVID time, it really is just something that's continuously we're adapting to and trying to provide the best experience for our students. What we really are hoping that you can do is to continue to be a part of our communications. So if you haven't already, please make sure that you sign up for our Buff Family newsletter. You are a partner in this process, and we want you to be informed as well. And so definitely check out our newsletter. That's going to share some of the, again, those in-person event programming opportunities, all the programming that is taking place, how to help your student through this transition. So definitely take a look at that newsletter. I want to also mention that all of our students who live in our residence halls also receive newsletters. And those newsletters are outlining some of the programs that Crystal had mentioned previously, as well as other things that are happening around campus. And so we do partner in collaboration with many offices and departments around campus, including our academic colleges. They're going to also be hosting events and activities for your students that really focus on academic success and those things that are really important and vital to making sure that they are able to learn in an online learning environment and stay connected and continue to grow. And in addition to that, if your student is not a residential student and they do commute, we do have our Commuting Buffs newsletter, and really important again for your student to be connecting with that newsletter because it will be sharing a lot of events and activities, information to help them be successful here during this time at CU Boulder living off campus.
Thank you,
So
Amber. Oh, I do also want to say I have the COVID dial link and I can pull that up so families can see that. If you are curious, I know Amber mentioned it and several others have mentioned this dial. So you can see this on the Boulder County Public Health website. And this link is one that we encourage families, students, and community members to stay connected with so that you can understand this status dial. And like Paul, Crystal, and Amber have all mentioned now, when we're in this level red in Boulder County, that really affects what we are able to do. And I know Paul mentioned specifically with that new indoor dining option that if we are in that level red, we will not be able to offer that, but things below that level, we will be able to. So I did want to just pull that up. So as we continue to refer to the dial, families and students know where they can find more information, see the current data and current updates on that. And then if anyone else had anything to add about the dial, and then I'll turn it back over to Amber.
Thank you, Bree. Yes, I think the visual is really helpful. I know we keep mentioning that dial, and that's exactly what we are talking about. It does drive everything that we're able to do to ensure that our students and our community is safe. So I just want to make sure that we also don't forget about our parents. As I said earlier, you are a significant component to your students' success in college. We see you as a partner. And so we want to let you know that we also have continued engagement opportunities for you as well. We did talk a little bit about the Spring Welcome experience, but for our families, we invite you and strongly suggest that you check out our Navigating the Transition sessions. They're going to be hosted on the 11th and the 13th of January at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll also have those recorded and we can share those back out with you too. So if those dates and times don't work for you, you can go ahead to our website and you'll have access to those sessions as well. In addition to that, we have ongoing programming and engagement. So this is really important. We're always looking at different ways in which we can continue to support our families and our parents. And so again, feel free to give us any feedback. We've shared our email with you. We'd love to figure out ways in which we can continue to provide support and programs and opportunities for you to stay connected with us. But what we are currently doing is one of our Buff Family webinar series. And so we do those topically based on interests and different things that are taking place in the student cycle of what's important to their experience. We do host more casual coffee hours. That's just a chance for you to connect with our office, to ask any maybe outstanding questions. We're trying to just really make sure that we're keeping you informed based on topics and things that come up pretty frequently. Those frequently asked questions, we try to make sure that we're addressing those. And then we do, in partnership with Dining and Paul and his team, Taste of Home, we do currently, we just completed our virtual Taste of Home experience. And so we hope some of you may have participated in that virtual experience this fall. But in addition to that, we'll be hosting, hopefully, another version of that for the spring. So make sure to check that out. And then we are also planning to host our family day. So we hope to possibly be able to do that in person, but if not, we will certainly be engaging with you virtually with some opportunities around a family day. So stay tuned for more information on that.
Thank you so much, Amber. So at this time, we are going to move into Q&A. And we will try to answer as many questions as we can with the time that we have remaining. If your question does not get addressed, please email us your question and we will get back to you as soon as we can. I also want to make note that we did have some pre-submitted questions. So we are going to be addressing some of the questions that were pre-submitted when folks registered, as well as answering questions that have been typed into the Q&A live during this session. So hopefully we can get through some of these during our time together. And if not, you will know how to get a hold of us at the end to make sure you get your question answered. All right, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and start with our first question. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And my first question is going to be for Crystal. Crystal, what is the on-campus housing move-in process for spring?
Thank you, Bree. So I want you to think about it in 3 steps. So step 1, students are going to self-select a move-in appointment from their MyCU Living portal. Our Bear Creek students can begin selecting the appointments later today. And the residence hall students can begin selecting appointments on January 15th. That's step one. So it's vital that all on-campus residents complete that move-in appointment prior to returning to campus. Step two, students are going to complete a COVID-19 saliva screening on campus before they return to their room. There's going to be 4 screening sites located across campus, and more details will soon be posted at our colorado.edu/living website. Step 3, after your student has completed their COVID-19 screening, they will get a wristband, and it shows that they're clear to re-enter the residence halls. The student will then go to their respective residence hall or apartment, and then the front desk will reactivate their Buff1 card.
Thank you so much, Crystal. This next one is going to be for Paul. Paul, will meal plans be required in the spring, or will there be an option to opt out?
Meal plans will still be required in the spring. All first-year students are required to have a meal plan. You are able to either adjust it up or down, decrease it from a 19 to a 15, or to increase it from a 15 to a 19 if you so choose. With all the new additions and to our units, we are confident that we can provide quality experience for the students living on campus, especially since they really don't have access to a kitchen, and providing that meal service for them. So they're still required, yes.
Thank you, Paul. Our next question is actually going to be for Laura. So Laura, you can introduce yourself as you answer this question. Is there an option to opt out of housing for spring? And if so, when does that decision need to be made?
Hey everyone, my name is Laura Arroyo. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Director for Housing Administration. It's so good to see you all today. I'm happy to help. This is a really important question and one that we've been getting quite a bit within our office. We want to make sure that students have as much flexibility as possible to make some decisions in regards to their spring process, knowing that there's been lots of changes, and we recognize that those changes may have impacted your decisions of how you proceed and move forward. So within the spring, for the spring semester, you can still complete the first year petition to release process as a first year student and stay at home and continue to be remote and live with a parent, family member, or guardian. And we've tried to create some more additional flexibility as well with that process, knowing that our timeline has changed a little bit and therefore your decisions might change a little bit. So you'll have until January 18th to complete the first year petition to release process and receive that approval through occupancy management. So you would need to contact student housing at colorado.edu. And then also we have all that information on our website of how to proceed in that process. But we're all answering the phones and able to help if you have questions as you proceed. I think the important thing to remember is that you receive that approval and then you work with Residence Life to make sure that you're working with them to move your belongings out of the residence hall. And so that way we can process money back for the spring.
Thank you, Laura. Our next question is another question for Paul. Paul, what have you been able to do to improve the dining wait times?
Thanks, Bree. Yes, so at the beginning of the semester, we definitely experienced some longer wait times. Partly it was due to social distancing, as well as our staff getting learned a completely different style of service. Before this year, most everything was self-serve, and we had to adjust to changing our speed of how many students we can get through and serving actual meals. After the first 2 weeks, we saw as students kind of moved into their schedule with their classes or other things, we saw wait times greatly reduce. One thing will definitely be, there will always be some certain times, even outside of social distancing, where it's going to be busy. For those times, for dinner and it's right at the end of breakfast, we highly encourage students to look at other times or look at their schedule and when they could come at a different off time so that they don't experience those potentially long wait times. But we definitely, after the first couple of weeks of the semester, we saw those times greatly reduced.
Thank you, Paul. Our next question is 2 parts for Laura. So Laura, we have 2 questions. Will we be paying less for housing since move-in is delayed? And when will students know if they are getting a roommate?
Those are great questions. We're receiving that quite a bit as well in our office. We want to make sure that we provide the correct amount of money and cost for spring on the front end. So we're working, instead of needing to provide you a refund, when we submit billing, we'll be submitting that for the correct number of days starting for February 7th. So that means based on the new dates of occupancy for spring, that's about 25% less than you would have paid. And if you look at the housing website, we actually have it broken down by room type as well. And the reason why I can't give you a specific number on the call right now is because based on your room type is how much money you would need to pay for housing and dining for spring. So take a look, and if you have any questions, please contact studenthousing@colorado.edu or give us a call, and we can certainly walk you through the financial pieces of that as well as the billing. And then to the second question about roommates, we are working fast and frantically to make sure that we get all of the assignments out to our new students. So many of you know that we accept new students for spring, and then we also had students that were in a space off campus in a hotel that we have reassigned into our housing for spring. So as we make those new assignments, and that should be completed and sent out probably end of this week, beginning of next, when that gets completed and all of our assignments are sent out to new students, we'll be contacting any students that also impacts as well. And the only thing I would say as well is we're continuing with our cohorting for the spring. And so that means that we're assigning students based on their college. So that will continue. Nothing has really changed in regards to that, and we won't be moving you or changing your assignment from what it's currently been.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Our next question is for Crystal or Amber. One or both of you can add in. What outdoor activities will be available to get students out of their dorms?
Hi, everyone. I can start. So we do have our sporting equipment located at the community center that students can check out. You know, many of you know this is a gorgeous campus, and so weather permitting, it's our hope that our students can go on hikes. They can take advantage of some of the offerings out in the Boulder community. Also utilize our RTD system with their Eco Pass, which they all receive, which is free. And so it's really depending upon what the guidelines are. And also weather and what we're able to offer. But we do plan on having outdoor movies that are close to the residence halls. And I know Amber also has some more campus level responses for this question.
All right. Hope you can hear me. Okay, so yeah, we will actually have basketball courts and volleyball courts allowed again based on that dial. We are hoping to host, outdoor fall activities and that we did our spring activities like we did similarly in the fall around under our tents around things like painting, guided paint lessons, lawn games, even we had some yoga classes. All of this is obviously weather permitting. So really important again for us to think about. We definitely want to engage with our students as the temperature allows us to do that in a safe way. We'll continue to look into these opportunities as we can. We're always open to hearing student input and interest. I can imagine, maybe some snowman building competitions if we get a lot of snow this fall or this spring in the winter. So yeah, I think again, stay tuned. More will continue to come and evolve as we get closer to the spring semester starting and as we know more about where that dial stands.
Thank you so much, Amber. I'm already envisioning lots of snow people on Farron Field as we get ready for some spring, winter weather. All right, so our next question we have for Crystal again. Crystal, In order to make move-in as flexible as possible based on the COVID situation with CU Boulder, will CU Boulder have transportation from the airport to the testing center for residents? And kind of with that, will the UPS store run the deliver to the dorm room program again, as it did in August, to help facilitate anyone who might be flying straight to the COVID entry test center?
I will answer this question and also tag in Craig, one of my colleagues, in case I leave anything out. So I'll start with the shuttle piece. We will not run dedicated shuttles from Denver International Airport, but we do provide students with the Eco Pass, as I referenced earlier, and so they can use that to obtain free transportation from DIA here to Boulder. And then with regard to UPS will not be doing in-room delivery in the spring. We really work to protect students' property, and so we try to minimize entry into student rooms after the halls are occupied. Craig, is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think there are a number of third-party vendor services as well. So if a student is looking for a more private transportation option rather than RTD public transit, there are a number of services in and around Boulder and Denver that provide direct transit from the airport to the campus as well. And so that would be an option to look into if people are looking for a more private option. And then we are planning to run the Buff Bus service on campus throughout the testing process as well. So if students are using public transit to get to their testing location, they can turn around and use the Buff Bus to get back to their residence hall then.
Thank you so much, Craig and Crystal, for that tag team two-part question. This one is for Laura. Again, some more information about cancellation. So Laura, can you please explain cancellation to spring 2021 housing after January 18th? What amount will be refunded if someone misses that January 18th deadline?
Absolutely. So I think that there's kind of two things to consider in this. There's the first year petition to release process, and that's for students that may choose to stay at home with a parent, family member, or guardian, or there's students that could be withdrawing and deferring from CU until fall. So fall of 2021. So there's kind of two different pieces of this. I think the important date in this process is for first year petition to release. That January 18th is the date that we've extended the first year petition to release process until, for you to receive an approval to stay at home with a parent, family member, or guardian. And that's to continue with remote status throughout the spring semester. After the 18th and until we open on February 7th, if you hadn't completed the paperwork, you complete after that point and receive approval, you'd receive it would be a 15% charge of housing and dining for the spring. And then after occupancy begins, so after we open, it's 50% back of your room and board fees from that date of occupancy. So say, for example, you return for the spring, you move in, and then maybe in March, you decide, I'm ready to move on home. I want to leave early and finish out the rest of the spring at home. It's 50% from the time that you move out. I think the other part of this that's really important is to remember that moving out also means you need to move your belongings out of the residence hall. So Residence Life is working with students to ensure that there's additional times throughout this break to support students to move out of the residence halls and move their belongings and do a checkout with staff. And that's a really critical part, because completing the paperwork is important and getting approval is important. But in addition, we want to make sure that students also move their belongings out and gather everything that they own from the residence hall room. And then from the cancellation end, cancellation also can mean if you're withdrawing from housing. And that means that you're deferring, maybe you've decided to transfer from CU. The big pieces of that is that we support students to make those decisions, and it's 100% back of the spring charge for room and board for housing and dining cost.
Thank you, Laura. And you segued very nicely into our next question for Crystal about that piece. If you are a student that left their things in the residence halls but decided not to return, so what do you do if you're a student who left your belongings in their room and decided not to return? What does that look like?
Thank you. So if a student does decide, So if a student does decide not to return for the spring, as Laura mentioned, they would need to contact student housing first to cancel their contract. After that, they can email us at reslife@colorado.edu to schedule a move-out appointment for one of our designated move-out dates. We have limited staffing over the break, so we won't be able to accommodate walk-up appointments. I'll also add that if a student simply forgets to pick up something they forgot over the break, we are happy to support with critical needs, such as medication or school supplies. But as we messaged before the break, students won't be able to access their living space for casual pickups.
Thank you, Crystal. And I'm going to keep you on because our next question is actually for you again. So we have a question about campus police and safety. So is it unusual to have police walk through the dorms, or is it just because of the pandemic? Can you tell us a little bit about the campus security officers or CUPD who might be roaming the halls in the residence halls?
Great question. We've had a lot of conversations with our campus police department here over the last semester, and we are working to differently share out what the intention is with our students when they return, and also partner differently. And so what I can share is that we do have RSOs, and these are our folks who go to the student communities and just walk through, and they're working to build community and say, hey, we want to connect with you. We want to get to know you. And if they do see an incident, they are going to be documenting. So they are not police officers. They do work for CUPD. So what will happen as we move into the spring, we are going to, share messaging with the students to introduce the RSO for their community. Also think about how can we do more and different programs to know them and really understand that they are here to be helpers. And so this is a program that we've had for several years to help them, build community and be more of a staff presence in our residential communities.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, this next question is going back to dining. So this one's for you, Paul. Our question is about those 2 indoor dining areas that you mentioned. How many seats total will be available in those 2 indoor dining areas? And are there any other details you can share about the process and how students will register for those?
Sure. So yes, we will have 2 locations on campus for students to dine in. One will be in the UMC and one will be at the Village Center. Those will be currently Monday through Friday. And students will make a reservation for every hour on the hour. In those locations, we will be able to seat, due to the seating capacity for restaurants, about 20 students per seating in each room. Right now, in order to keep social distancing, as well as, in a dining in location, we're going to limit table sizes to 4 individuals at that time. Students will have roughly 30 to 40 minutes to eat their meal inside that space. And then we will have a cleaning crew come in, clean and disinfect the tables and any high touch areas. And then at the top of the hour, 20 new students can come in and sit down and dine in those spaces.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. That sounds like it's going to be a nice opportunity for some of our students to stay connected. All right, we have another question for Crystal. And Crystal, this one is a little bit different than what we talked about before. We already addressed what happens if my belongings are still in the residence hall, but I decided not to return and live in the residence halls. But this question is just about getting some belongings that they left behind. So the question is, my daughter is moving back to Colorado from out of state, and she may need to access her dorm to pick up clothes, etc., that she didn't bring with her. How can she arrange that?
We are allowing students to access their room if they have critical needs related to medication or school supplies. Anything outside of that, we would not be able to let folks back. And we share that in our messaging. So we won't be able to accommodate a request for clothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, our next one is for Laura. Laura, will there be another virtual housing expo for freshmen who need to find roommates and off-campus housing for fall 2021? How can these kids who don't know anybody find compatible roommates?
It's a great question. This has just been such a difficult year to meet people. I think we're hearing this commonly from students that are living in the residence hall and know that they need to make some decisions for fall 2021. And that's always challenging, but doing so in the middle of a pandemic is even more concerning and a little overwhelming. We work really closely with off-campus housing and neighborhood relations to create opportunities for students so that they can meet one another and meet potential landlords and understand a little bit greater the Boulder market and what Boulder opportunities there are for housing. Right now, there's a housing expo going on that will continue through the month of December. There's another that's coming up in the spring, January and February, there's opportunities. And then the other thing I will say, so those are the housing expos and that's connection with landlords. But something else just as important, I think, in this question is a connection with other students. So what's ongoing in off-campus housing that I think is even maybe more supportive to students is opportunities virtually to meet other students that are looking for housing as well. And this is roommate meetups. And they've continued to do this. This has always been something that's been offered through off-campus housing, and it's been offered in the fall as well. But we've increased those and continued to develop those for the spring. So I would say make sure that you email off-campus housing, so och@colorado.edu for more information. And they are really great at responding and letting you know what those availabilities are to meet other students. And then the last thing I will say, many of you have probably heard of Ralphie's List. Ralphie's List is an opportunity, an online opportunity for you to go and see what's available for students and look at different housing opportunities in Boulder and in the greater Boulder area. Ralphie's List, we're doing a lot of work on actually for the spring. And so there's going to be even more opportunity for you to engage in relationships with landlords so you can have conversations and get those questions asked that you might have about leases.
Thank you, Laura. I'm going to keep you for one question while you are still here. And thank you for mentioning Ralphie's List. I know a lot of our students also use that. So while you're here, I just wanted to ask you a specific question someone had is, when will our student hear about his request for a room transfer?
That's a great question. So right now we're still working on the assignments for new students, and that's really important that we get those completed so that we can talk, that way we can talk about space that we have within our buildings. One thing that I think is important to acknowledge is that due to COVID, the way that we've done roommate requests or the way that we've done roommate changes is just a little bit different than we've done in previous years. Right now, we're really limiting those roommate requests or roommate changes to building specific. And that's because we want to make sure that we're working with our health professionals and we're reducing the spread of COVID from building to building. And of course, students can't move right now and everything's sort of on delay. So there's nothing wrong with your request. We're holding it. We just haven't made any movement on that yet with the changes for spring and for those additional housing assignments that we need to complete. So if you do not hear back in the next 2 weeks, this is an invitation to email me at laura.arroyo@colorado.edu. You can ask me any question and I'm always here for you and I'll follow up.
Thank you, Laura. Really appreciate that. We only have time for about 2 more. So with our final 2, we are going to ask Crystal another question. So Crystal, when students are moving back into the dorm during February move-in, will they be allowed to pull their car up to the dorm to unload? And will parents be allowed to assist with move-in like the fall?
Great question. So we are currently working with parking on the move-in arrangements. And so we likely will not be issuing special move-in permits, but more details will be posted as we receive them on the colorado.edu /living website. So don't back your car up to the door and stay tuned for more information. And then can you repeat the second part? I'm sorry, Bree.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just about if parents are able to help like they were in the fall, how many guests and how does the guest process work for families?
Thank you so much. So 2 is our limit for guests, and so we can have one person in the building at a time. And so we will also outline that because we know it's important for families to be involved in the move-in process. And so stay tuned for more info, but definitely we'll have 1 in at a time and 2 guests is our limit. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. And we'll ask one final question of Paul, and then we will have to wrap up. So Paul, will there be Asian food and the sushi bar at the C4C this coming semester? It was greatly missed by the students. And what about dining at Willville?
Sure. So we've definitely heard the absence of Asian food in our residence in our dining halls. So we, as part of our menu reconstruction for the spring, we've added that not only to C4C, but also down at the Village Center, as well as the alley at Farrand. For example, at the alley at Farrand, we will have teriyaki chicken bowls available every day at Farrand or the alley. We're also looking at bringing in 2 to 3 days a week as another option over at Sewell. Sushi, we're still working on, still working through some logistics. We're working with a local company in order to provide sushi for the students as well. Stay tuned for that one. It's high on our priority list, and we're doing everything we can to make that happen. So we've heard the absence of that cuisine, and we are excited to bring that back to our menus. As far as the dine-in at Willville goes, that's actually one of the locations as well. It will be down in the multi-purpose room on the first floor of the Village Center dining and commons area.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. And thank you to all of our panelists for answering as many questions as we could within this hour. We greatly appreciate all of your time. And I know we weren't able to get to everyone's questions, and we were really focused on housing and dining today. So if you had other questions outside of housing and dining, or if your question did not get answered, please email us at families@colorado.edu, and we will help get you connected. And I'm actually going to share my slide again, just so that you can take pictures of all of our contact information at New Student and Family Programs. So that way you know how to get a hold of us. So you can see our phone number, email, and our website here. And I would encourage you to stay connected with us. We are here for you. Sign up for the Buff Family newsletter if you haven't, and join us for our future monthly webinars or coffee hours. So thank you, everyone. Again, I'm going to launch a quick exit poll. So we would love to hear from you. If you are still on the call with us, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's webinar. So give us your feedback in that exit poll. And if any of the panelists have any other final announcements, feel free to chime in. But we hope you all have a wonderful new year, a great winter break, resting with your students, hopefully, and take care.